Hello, I'm joined today by my guest, Mr. Milton Jannusch, and he's from Inspect Real Estate. Milton, how are you doing?
Very good, David. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here on the Kerfuffle stage.
It's nice to see you again. And we're going to talk about a topic that, to me, here in the UK, from a UK agent's point of view, we're only kind of getting to grips with this now. But I know that you guys, we always ask for like fun facts and stats, and you sent over that, you know, this has been cooking for 2 decades already in terms of inquiry management, and that's over the water in Australia. So inquiry management, just to summarize in a nutshell, our problem is that we now have more lead sources in terms of different websites and inquiries coming through on the phone and email, and we've got text messaging capabilities, and the capability for you to be bombarded all day and all night with great leads. Not all of them are that great though, and not all of them are going to be ones that you're going to want to spend time picking up the phone to and progressing. So what do we do? Milton, tell us.
What do we do? You know, it's an interesting start to the topic, right? But I think we need to you know, commend the portals. Not really, but you know, they do their job really, really well. They send agents lots and lots of leads designed to fill properties for rentals and or buyers. So we've got to tick that box off first. But what I think they've done is they've done it too well. But then we put on top of all these other kind of lead channels for people to get in touch with you to say, I'm interested in your rental, I'm interested in your sales property. And I think we've kind of touched on this probably at another time, or many conversations we've had offline with other people. You know, the market shifted significantly over the last couple of years. You know, stock is the key focus really for most agents, probably for you guys as well, the people that you deal with. And the problem is not prospective tenants or prospective buyers, it's actual stock. So there's an undersupply of stock, way oversupply of buyers and prospective tenants. But then from an agent's perspective, it's like they are literally spending most of their time dealing with the grind as opposed to doing the deal.
I read here, I mean, time is money, and I read here that we're talking about 60 to 70% of all the leads coming in are normally email leads. And if you were to sort of factor that into an average agency's day, it means that they're spending somewhere between 4 and 6 hours a day on admin that is not going to add to your bottom line. So just to get that straight, you can only sell every house once, and you can only rent every property once. You're going to have multiple inquiries. So, you know, if you're dealing with 100, you can only pick one winner. You're going to spend time on 99 that is not going to add to your bottom line, because you're only going to earn what you're going to earn. So this is what we need to know. This is
absolutely. So it's a difficult thing, right? Because every single agency deals with inquiries in a different format. You do the normal traditional stuff, right? You come in at 8:30, you prepare for the day, you have your sales or rentals meeting with your department, and you go in, you get everything gets filtered out to you, and then you start hitting the phone. So that's the new stuff. Then we talk about the existing stuff, the follow-ups, the other stuff you do around inquiry management, as it were. So reconfirming appointments, booking people in, have you got that deal across to me? All those communication points are around your inquiries. Like, this is your kind of inquiry to deal process. We haven't even booked anyone in yet. Then we're going to start dealing with the actual, hey, are you available? You get the telephone tennis match, you get back in touch. I was on the phone, you call them back. Does that suit the occupant? Does that suit the vendor? No, that doesn't. And there's all these pieces are like, you know, operation herding cats, trying to get people all on the same page. But at the same time, from an agent's perspective, is making sure you are dealing with people that you can actually transact with, that you will want to place in the property for a rental. And obviously from a sales perspective, it's like, can this person transact with us? Have they got a mortgage in principle? Are they ready to go? Are there other opportunities in that data stream as well? And how do we get all those pieces just beautifully aligned all at the same time at point of transaction? So that's the kind of the really, I guess, the tricky part. And I guess hopefully we've kind of done that sort of nitty gritty grind stuff over the last kind of a couple of decades to sort of iron out all those creases. So yeah, hopefully we're right. Hopefully get it right.
So take us through. So I'm currently an unenlightened agent, and I'm dealing with all of these inquiries the way that I always have. And in fact, I can remember the time where there was no inquiry management, and I remember the process the office manager, Gina, you're right, she'd get in at 8:30 before anybody else. The first thing she'd do was go to all the portal leads, and heaven forgive her for this because she killed a lot of trees, but she would literally print every single one of them out, and then she'd divvy them up. So she'd have, okay, these 5 are for David, and these 5 are for Josh, and Nigel's going to do those, and Natalie will do that. And she became, I mean, it was like a full-time job for a couple of hours in the morning, just chasing up, making sure people were focused on returning those calls. We know, because we've been told, that our service is judged in terms of the time it takes us to get back to people. It's super interesting. I think one of the places that we normally bump into each other, Milton, is normally at conventions and award ceremonies and things like that. But in those places, when people are talking about what is a great standard of a state agency, it's the recognition that I asked this question to somebody like Peter Knight the other day, and he said to me that the expectation is that if you've got an email inquiry coming in, that you as an agent might respond to that in under 2 minutes. And to me, that kind of like blew my mind. If you're the only way to do that is using a piece of software, because the human element means that you're never necessarily going to just be around at that time. So let's imagine I'm one of those agents. What are my next steps? I come and talk to you. How do you help me? How does the system operate, and how does it fit with my existing kind of structure?
Probably I'll step back a bit, Dave, and I'll get to your question. I think it came from a real place, because before we got into technology, and there's actually quite a lot of technology that has been born out of an agency, and we are cut from that cloth as well. So we had a business called Pro Rentals in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. It was one of the larger independents at the time, a couple of decades ago. And as that grew, obviously, you put more bumps in the seat, you raise the profit, you can't get back to people, you only work between 9 to 6, all that sort of stuff, all the normal traditional stuff that you hear. But the market's changed since then. But the problem we had was we had staff sitting down at desks more than they were actually doing, open the doors, closing a deal, pardon that kind of really punny kind of cliche line. So it was like, well, how about we give some control to the potential applicant, but with the parameters of control that we need to deal with people that we need to. And that was kind of the premise of where it was bought. So we kind of flipped the script and said, well, let's just get out on the road and let's let these bloody things, as opposed to sitting at our desk and just being a cost burden and eroding the profit to our business. So, fast forward from that business to where we are now, if I was speaking to you, it's about, how many staff are you doing these sorts of things with? How long are your customers waiting to be responded to? And the basic premise of what it does, and the real beautiful part about what we believe facilitates an agent, is the big time factor. But when you talk about your customers, it's always about your customers, because your customers drive growth, your customers drive use. And I think if you meet them halfway, wanting that, with the agent going, I can't deal with everyone and I can't, home everyone, we need to deal with people we can transact with, is finding that beautiful kind of sweet spot. So when you respond to people at time of transaction, you catch them in buy mode and you catch them in rent mode, because they're actively looking for a rental. They're actively looking to buy something, as opposed to calling them at 9 o'clock and go, oh, you've caught me off guard, I'm on my way to work. Oh, I'm dropping the kids off to school. Sorry, which property was it for? I've applied for 15 last night. Who are you? Which one was you? So when you reply to that person, you replied to this property. Hi, it's Milton from David Mintz Realty. Here's a nice little text message. It's got David Mintz at the top of it. This is the property you just inquired on. Within 3 to 7 seconds of the inquiry being lodged on any portal, including your website. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I'll click on that. Engagement. They're already engaged. 81 to 87%, click through rate, because people like, tapping on a keyboard. My text just came through my phone. I will look at that, because people get sidetracked by a text message or WhatsApp. And then we can guide them through that beautiful customer journey to help themselves, really.
But the point is, they've got the option to communicate with you in a way that suits them. So, the day of people picking up the phone and talking to somebody, I mean, I know if I can get it done by message, then I'd like to get it done by message. I don't necessarily need to talk to everybody all the time. There's a lot of time wasted with that, but also it allows me to choose when I respond as well. So I think that the key factor is, as an agent, I've got back to you promptly. You're getting the message back in a way that you prefer, actually, and it allows us all to sort of get to the nub of it. Nobody wants to have long conversations. What they want is to find a property, and what I want to do is show that property.
Exactly. And I think that's the part of them, to tie back into what Peter Knight was saying. It's like we've come to this technology age in estate and lettings where it's just immediate. We need things immediately. And when we don't get that, we kind of almost switch off and go, that was yesterday's news. No, it was like 10, 15 minutes ago you did that. Sorry, I'm 10, 15 minutes late on the phone call. But people are so fast moving, and that's just the way that people are consuming now. And the beautiful thing about being in technology, it's all data, right? So if you can present a potential customer with all the right information for them to make a better judgment on whether they want to proceed to be an applicant or a buyer for that property, and go, hey, I've got all the things that I need to know. I need the rental appraisal, I've got the deeds, or whatever it needs to be. Yeah, theoretically, when that comes through to you as a response to I guess, push that conversation forward, it's like, great, they've probably read that. I'm probably dealing with someone who is almost self-vetted themselves. So we can push those conversations and that journey a lot quicker forward as well. So that's the kind of premise in behind the inquiry management system.
And then in terms of, so that's the premise.
Yep.
Talk to us about the practicalities. So how we know what it does, how does it do it, and what would I need in order to get it integrated into my systems?
Yeah, integrated systems. Everyone uses different CRMs, so we kind of bolt on and replace either manual processes or some sort of different kind of technology they've bolted in, so we can kind of complete that inquiry to diary management process. So what do you need? We get a live property data feed from your CRM, much like the one you sent to Portal. You then send it to IRE so we can match your applicants to the right property they've inquired on. Every time someone hits the request details on a Portal website or other, we respond instantly with white label responses to communicate that person to find them in rent or buy mode. If they don't click on any of our customized API links, we then follow them up because they were either going to sleep, the kids were doing something, they got sidetracked, they got off the bus, whatever. So we want to help with that process as well, because otherwise there would have been a tire kicker and wasting your time anyway. So we can do that. Once they click on that link, we then get to work on, how do you want to deal with your customer, David? Every single agent is different. Looking across it on a very kind of overview, lettings and sales process is very much the same, but when you kind of peel back all the layers, David Mintz Realty, Normie & Co, XYZ, they have really intricate kind of customer movement in that process. And it's our job to understand that, like what's your follow-up, what's your tone, what's your brand, what's your messaging like, what are your touch points? So we can follow those exact current touch points, manual ones, but kind of overlay a digital process to that. We then we have a full customization of showing virtual tours to help vet the client more. If they choose not to go ahead and book a viewing on that property, we then property match based on the agent's parameters. Say, hey, didn't like that dress, maybe I like this dress, and all that sort of stuff, because we want to rinse the leads as best as we can, because you're paying top dollar for that as well. And then if that person decides to go ahead and book a viewing, they have a whole suite of beautiful customization questions per property, or a blanket approach, your choice. We've got the full suite to do that, to go, you need to answer these questions appropriately so we know who we're talking to, so we can better serve you. And if they pass, they book in, and we actually book them into a live, actual, real appointment at time of transaction, and everyone in the process is immediately notified: occupant, vendor, applicant, reminded, confirmation. And then that's where the beautiful part of the magic works, whereas at point of booking, we update all the live times for all of your stock to know all the travel times, even peak times. We even know if you've got keys on the board, if you use anywhere, to allow access. A little bit of a nudge there on that one. And the whole thing just kind of kicks into gear. And it clusters your schedule, it does all those beautiful things people do manually in a very kind of automated fashion.
It sounds like a beautiful solution. It also sounds almost as if I've got a really motivated member of staff who is trying to really kind of squeeze as much juice as possible out of every single lead that comes in. So
Right.
if that property doesn't work, they'll suggest something else. If that's not suitable, we'll do property matching. And this to me is exactly what I would want my member of staff to be doing, but you're going to be doing it in a completely automated and much quicker fashion. And I've still got my amazing staff to fall back on
Yes.
if all else fails.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things there. Like, you talk about automated fashion, but the idea is it's really about, giving, the business the right tools for its staff as well. A big part of why we kind of built it was, you typically find that in Australia, and maybe it's the UK, I'm still kind of learning it. I've only been here like 3 or 4 years, that in Australia for sure, it was definitely like a fallback kind of, career. People not invest in the right tools. And you bring people on that are kind of like low value and they kind of flip out. So they go, it's not ready for me, and they move out of it. So when you really start investing in those tools for people, they really feel like they're invested in. So you want to invest in stuff that makes them successful. You also want to invest in tools and people that aren't going to be going out the door, which is a resource drain, right? You want to give them the right platform.
And that's the key.
As you successful.
That's the key to implementing any kind of new tech, but particularly anything like this, is that it's not there to replace anybody, but it's there to support them. It's there to acknowledge the fact that I, as the business owner, understand that the most frustrating part of your day might actually be responding to every single portal lead that comes in, and that it might not make you feel at the end of the day like the super duper estate agent I know you're capable of being, because you have just been demoted effectively to very, very simple admin. And nobody, I don't think anybody wants to feel like that. We're not order takers at the end of the day.
Exactly. If you want to take orders, there's plenty of Domino's and pizza shops around, right? It's just that's how it is. I think, gone are the days, particularly in our channel, which is, letting in high street. I think that really needs to be kind of drummed in, and it's not to make our staff rosters thinner. It's actually just to make it better. It's better for customers. It's better for staff. Less turnover, less bums on seat, bigger profit, better margins, better tools. It all makes sense. But it's a slow adaptation from everyone, because everyone's going through their own growing and teething processes for their business, and they need to be ready to take that on as well.
So do I take it that this basically is suitable for any kind of estate agent who is doing either lettings or sales, and it doesn't matter what portal you're on, you guys are capable of dealing with those inquiries?
Yes, absolutely. So inquiry management happens in every single agency. It's the lifeblood to, we've got the stock, we've got to fill it. But at the moment, like we said at the start, it's a massive overkill of tenant and buyer inquiry, and you can only sell it and rent it to one person. So hopefully the idea is we kind of sit between, I guess the public and the property and the outcome to sort of generate high quality leads, better outcomes, and a very sort of listed to let or listed to sale process that could be, 2 weeks normal on an average sort of, I guess, business, to sort of really condense that. It's about cost as well. Like, the longer it's listed, the more it's going to cost your business, fair wear and tear, petrol, staff costs, and no deals come across the line yet. It's like, it's really sucking the margin out of it.
I love the fact that you mentioned earlier that it kind of can connect up with the key system as well, and that's another feather in your cap, is this tremendous key system. I think if agents have dirty little secrets, it's missing keys. Every now and again it'll just go missing and you won't know where it is unless you're using your fantastic system. So this could sort of link up entirely and sort of let me know where that key is, whether I can actually carry out that viewing, and presumably if that key's not there, it'll say, not that time, let's go another time. Yeah,
exactly. So you hit it on the head. So even if the booking and key system were intertwined and the agent said they're available, they could get to the appointment, if there's no keys there in that day, it just won't show you the times for that day because it's already out with someone for that day. And I guess the beautiful part about it is, as it's booking these viewings with your occupants, tenanted, void properties, whatever, it starts reserving those keys. So when you come in the morning, it's just like, right, I've got 8 viewings, 10 viewings, whatever it is, and they're all back to back, nicely clustered. Everyone's confirmed and scheduled in. You just go to your key system and go, this is me, there's all my keys, issue out, and the whole board lights up to say, these are all the keys that we reserved for you, have at it, and then you go out and do your viewings.
Anybody that hasn't seen this key system needs to take a look at it, because it's a visual spectacle all in itself. It's definitely worthwhile. So Milton, for those people that are interested in this, how quickly could I be using it? What's the onboarding process, and what sort of training needs to go into it?
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, we don't assume anything that we, it's an off the rack kind of thing. There's a lot of customization that goes on in the background before we go into a deep dive. So we have initial consult. If that kind of ticks the boxes that we can help you, great. And then we go through to a pre-go live, which is usually a week later in the calendar. Once we hit that in the head, we could probably be live in anywhere between minimum 2, maximum 3 in any given instance. So we've kind of integrated with most of the major CRMs here in the UK already. So we've got the property data feed. If we've got calendar integrations, we can do those. So it's pretty straightforward in most instances now. The only big thing is just making sure we're dedicating time to each other, to onboard, to partner, to make sure it has the best return or outcome for the agency that's onboarding. That's all we ask. 2 to 3 weeks, yeah, roughly 2 to 3 weeks.
It's fantastic. Well, look, there it is. Inspect Real Estate. You won't find a nicer man in the real estate industry than Milton Jannusch. So just spend 5 minutes talking to him about this, and I'm sure you'll find an inquiry management system that I think fits quite nicely in any estate agency. All their details are on kerfuffle.com. Milton, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Cool. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Always.